Alright, welcome y'all. Just gonna be a session today, Christmas Day. We're gonna be mixing up some tracks off the Telefunken Live Lab multi-track links. And just gonna be doing some rough mixes, practicing, going through some plugin stuff. Nothing really that crazy. Mixes will be pretty rough, not trying to get too dynamic or dialed in. Just this is more for practicing live sound than it is studio sound. So tag along, comment, ask questions. I'll make another video and answer them. Thanks. So right now I'm just importing all of the tracks that I downloaded from the Telefunken website into Logic to be used for the mix session. So again, just loading all the tracks into Logic so that we can dump those tracks from Logic via USB into this Allen and Heath Sq6 right here. This Allen and Heath Sq6 has a Dante card in it. That Dante card spits into a Focusrite Rednet PCIEnx card that sits in this Sonnet Thunderbolt chassis, connects to a Mac Mini M1 Pro, and runs this second screen right here, which we have Waves Superrack on. So we'll be utilizing that during today's mix session, because again, today's more about practicing live sound. This is a controlled environment, but the recording was done in a live room, not a studio room. So we're trying to mimic that kind of environment and deal with those typical problems of bleed and saturation and things that we can't really dial in when we're in a studio, because we don't have that control, right? So yeah, we're going to be using Superrack and plugins just like we would be if we were out on a real live gig. And now that we have the tracks loaded up into Logic here, I'm going to drag. I'm going to first set up a loop so that I don't have to keep replaying it or hitting start or stop. It'll just keep going as I need it. And then we're going to go ahead and hit play. And I can already see lights are lighting up here on the console. So tracks are playing. We're going to go ahead and close some of these screens out. We're actually going to take this screen and we're going to put it over. I use my my iPad right here. Y'all can't see it, but I use that as a sidecar for my screens, so I can dump Logic onto there and keep this screen open for things like SQ Mixpad or Smart. If we need to see some demonstrations done in Smart, I can do that in there as well. So as we can see, we've got all this information cooking in. Nothing's labeled yet, so let's start off by labeling all of our tracks, right? So we know that this will be our kick. We'll just go through and label everything out. Snare. Hi-hat, my bad. I left you guys on the other screen. Let me go ahead and cut us back over so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just using SQ Mixpad to go through and label all my tracks. I have my iPad over here, and I need to charge my pen. Charge the pen up. For those of you who don't know, when you're using an iPad in sidecar mode, while your finger will not enable the touch screen to work, if you have the Apple Pencil, it will still work, which is actually a really cool feature when you're tuning a sound system live. If you're using Acoustics Network Manager or any of the software that runs on a Mac, which is pretty much everything except for Lab Groupin, right? Or Harmonia or the Lab Groupin software. they don't run on Mac. However, Meyer, L-Acoustics, DB, they all run on Mac. So you can boot that up on your laptop and then put your iPad into sidecar mode and go around with the pen and actually make adjustments to the system via iPad, which is really neat. Not everybody knows you can do that, but when you figure it out, and it gives you that freedom to be able to make those fine-tuned adjustments in the position you want to be making them in, and not stuck at the laptop at front of house or in system engineering world backstage. So definitely look into the sidecar function with iPads if you're a systems engineer. Also great in the corporate world. That's where I mainly live, and that's where I find it most useful as well. I also love sidecarring it for QLab when I'm at front of house and having to run Qs and VOGs and all that fun stuff. So, going forward with where we were. So we're back, we're labeling tracks. Right now I'm just going through the list. So we're a hi-hat. Oh, I'm wrong. We have multiple kicks. So this is not snare. We have kick in. One bad part about the Allen and Heath series are these scribble strips and their character counts. Definitely got to get creative with naming things. But what it lacks there, it makes up for in plenty of other realms. Kick out. And these are two different kick out mics. One's a CU29, one's a Proto 647. And because we can't, we want to be able to label these, so we're just going to go K out, K out, K out. We'll do just 20, K out 29. Let me know it's the CU. And then the next one will be K out. We'll do 47 so that I know it's the 647. Okay, and then going forward, now we've got snare. Hit OK. Snare top. Bottom, hi-hat, rack 1, we have multiple floor mics. One appears to be a stereo situation occurring around the floor tom. We'll look into that. I didn't make these tracks. I just have to make them work. So we have floor tom, and then a floor tom stereo track. Alright, and to do that, we're going to want to go in and actually undo some things. So we need to go in and change some configurations, right? So 7 and 8 is no longer a stereo. So we need to look at how we want to do this, because we have, oh wait, actually let's check something else real quick. Let's go over here to, because that's what I figured. We're going to just load up a previous session in Superrack that I know is similar. The inputs will all be the same. I'll just have to change a few things, but it'll be a quick little place to start in Superrack. to get us started. Alright, cool. And then we'll go into Superrack and address all of that in a second. For now, we're going to come back in here and see if we can't figure out what's going on. If we can hear some things. So now I'm going to bring some volume up just to see if we can hear some things. Sorry about that. So I'm just feeling out what's what, what's where, so I can get a better idea of what's going on with these multitracks. Alright, so this is definitely our floor tom. Okay. Seems like we may have some routing issues in Logic regarding outputs. I'm not seeing track 1, so we're going to go check that out real quick. It's definitely showing an output there, so chances are our input is incorrect. I'm trying to do everything through the app so that y'all can see it, and we'll just go to the I/O page. Basically everything's patched via USB on the input side. And there we can see our problem. So we're going to go ahead and patch that kick in, and yes, now we're seeing signal on that first kick. We're hearing it. And there's our 3 kick outs. Snare, top and bottom. Hi-hat. That'll be rack 1, floor tom. Now this is going to be stereo. Fighting through to see what's next, which probably will be likely will be, let's see, our overheads. So we're going to go ahead and make that a stereo. Our next 1112 will be stereo as well. And this is all just the setup process of getting your audio in and out just to get started. So let's find out what issues we're having here, because right now I'm only getting sound out of my right speaker on a stereo track, which are these drum overheads. So just give me a moment to figure out who my problem child is, and I will fix that. And there's my problem child. So this should be 11 and 12. And then this should be 13, 14. And I'm going to go ahead and slap a compressor on this bus output that I'm feeding you all live stream, so that when what just happened now doesn't happen again and keep blowing out any of your ears, because I know how annoying that is. Kind of new to doing this live stream thing, so just bear with me as I figure the ins and outs as we go along. Hopefully Alright, there's a little compression on there just to keep things in check, a little limiting action. Alright, where were we? Stereo tom. Only hearing it over there though. So let's go look and see what's going on. So we're going to make these stereo tracks that apply. Go check our routing. Alright, stereo, stereo, stereo. Alright, we've got our stereo tracks going along nicely now. So this is stereo overheads. And rolling into stereo room. So room mics, probably won't use them because I'm trying to get a cleaner signal in here, and that's just going to kind of muddy it up. It would give us a better understanding of the live room, but for this instance and what I want to portray across the live stream is a cleaner signal than just that. So we probably won't use that unless we need it. You might need it. Help thicken things up a little bit. Where did my mouse go? It looks like the mouse battery bit the dust, so let me swap these out. Always save used batteries from events. They're perfect for remotes. point in throwing them away when we use them for a mere few hours and they still have plenty of juice left in them. So if you do live events, recycle those batteries, throw them in your remotes. Alright, so stereo room, stereo overhead. Next. Alright, and now it seems like we're probably going to have to repatch some things, because it's a guitar, and that's a bass, and none of that is what it should be. So let's go have a look and see what's going on with our patching. And we can see there's definitely something wrong. Missing my bass guitars. These fellers right here, which should be outputting, oh yeah, see there's the issue. So 11, 12, 13, 14, this will be 15, this will be 16, those stereo channels can mess things up, 17. So right now I'm just redoing some channels in Logic to make the outputs reach the right inputs on the console. 19, 18, 19. Let's see what we got going on here. Keep an eye on our patch. So 15 right here. So there's one little thing that is a grievance of mine with Allen and Heath is not being able to label these in the patch bay right here. That would be very convenient to be able to just blast through it this way instead of having to go through the channel strip method. But nope, we don't get that option. So let's go see if we got our basses. Sounds like a bass. There's definitely two basses there, so let's go to input 15 and figure out what's going to input 15. And 15 is a drum, there it is, a little drum pad. So now that we know what that little feller is, alright, moving forward, now we know that this is a bass, and it'll be our bass, an active DI. Green for bass, and then our next one is our bass mic, and as you can see it doesn't fit, so B mic it is. Green again, and then our next channel is guitars. We're into the guitars, so guitar, and what of our check our Logic files to see. What is what? So this is guitar condense mic. And we'll go blue for guitars. Then, so this will be an M81, guitar 81, we'll call it M81, because I don't want to confuse it with a Shure 81. And then a shelf mic. Shelf mic, alright, and those are our guitars. Then we have a Vox Clean, although the audio track seems empty. We will review it to see if there's actually any vocals on it. And we'll go yellow for Vox. Then we have a vocals drum track. And last but not least, a vocals effects track. Alright, and I believe that is all of our tracks now labeled. And we can start getting into the mix flow and setting things up to behave correctly with Superrack now, and making sure our inputs and outputs line up. I'm going to be using pretty much all plugins on every single track. I'm not doing this because the internal audio engine on the SQ isn't good. It's actually amazing. It does a great job. The effects do a great job. The deep plugins do a great job. Everything about this board does a great job. However, there's always room for a little bit better. And in my experience, things like the F6, multi-band dynamic EQ just comes in clutch. The Fab Filter EQ comes in clutch on certain things. While their performance package of the SQ is great for its price point, just a little bit extra money, you can really get into a pro like touring level audio situation with this console. You're at 96K. If you're using the DX or the DT stage boxes, you've got the D-Live preamps, and the audio engine's pretty much the same. You're just missing matrices and buses and the ability to insert those deep plugins on every single input like you'd like to. And that's where using the inserts and Dante and the Rednet PCIEnx card come in handy. It allows you to get the latency down below 3.5 milliseconds, which is 100% usable for pretty much any front of house application. Maybe not so much for monitors, as you may find some artists are so in tune with their instrument that they can actually sense the slightest bit of latency. And it's amazing when you work with those artists and they actually call you out on it. Others, they don't even notice it. So it really just comes down to who you're working with as to what you can get away with. But for today's practice, everything's going to be running through Superrack. So at this point, we're going to jump over to Superrack. We're going to start labeling that to match the console. We'll throw some plugins in the chain. You're going to see there's already plugins in most of these chains. That's because I'm reusing another show file that I've already kind of previously built, although we're going to have to move things around. I'm just doing this because I really don't feel like, you know what, screw it. just for the point of doing it, we're going to go ahead and rebuild a whole new rack. So here we go. New rack it is. So we're now going over to Superrack. We're going to open, do you want to save this session? We're going to say no. We're just going to say this new one here, which isn't exactly new. As you can see, it already has a bunch of stuff loaded into it. However, it is a great starting point. So first and foremost, I'm going to address all the ins and outs to be what they should be. So 1 is 1, 2 is 2, 3 is 3, so on and so forth. Right now they are not in the correct order. And after I do that, I'm going to resave this as my new starting point so that I don't have to redo this again in the future. Those of you who've been in this industry long enough know that in the old days when everything was analog, we did not have the options of just saving things and recalling them. We had to start from scratch every single time, especially if we shared the equipment with someone else, which was very annoying. But that's just the way life was. Digital changed all that. Changed the way we do sound, changed the way we hear sound, changed the way we perceive sound. Many of us still believe that analog sounds better. However, the tools and workflow that digital has given us cannot be argued against. It just makes our lives a lot easier. So we utilize it. Just trucking along here, naming everything out. 12, get everything 1 for 1. Some of these are going to be stereoed, so I need to keep that in mind. But for the point of resaving this for a fresh start, I don't want to make them stereo yet. I just want to get a 1 for 1 going on these. So we're up through 16. We're going to go through 20 because that's typically what I end up utilizing is about 20 rack spaces when I'm doing these multi-track sessions. Again, this is just for practice, nothing serious. Don't forget to change the outputs to match. Sometimes they don't always go back to where they should. So there's a good starting point. Now we're going to go ahead and save this session so that I don't have to redo that. But now we're going to make some changes because we have some stereo signals that we're going to be processing. And the first is the stereo tom channel, which is our 9 and 10. So we're going to come to rack 10 and we're going to make that stereo 9 and 10. Yes. Then we're going to come to rack 10 and we're going to make that stereo 11 and 12. And then last but not least, the room, which we probably won't use, but we're going to assign it anyway. Alright, so we have our 3 stereo channels built in Superrack. Now we need to go ahead and make everything after them line up to the correct input. So we're ending on 13, 14, so this one is going to turn into 15. And then everything after that will just follow, so this will be 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, so on and so forth. Okay, now we have our inputs done. Just kind of running through the inputs real quick. So now we're going to check our insert side of things. Come back over to SQ Mixpad and see what we can find. In the insert side of our world to make sure everything is patched correctly, or should be patched correctly. So starting on our kick in, and we can see that we have no insert, right? So we're going to assign input one, IO1 and IO1 in, IO1 out. We're going to hit apply. And this one went to the USB and not the IO. Apply. And that kick in, which somehow got unpatched, which we're going to go back and repatch it again. It's not getting any signal. Interesting. We have, oh, and the issue is over here on Superrack. So we can see down here, our transmitting did not get changed, which will be back to channel 1, and we need to come through and change these other ones because they didn't rectify themselves. Which is kind of annoying that when you make, but I understand why. It's because you want to be able to make complicated patches. But sometimes I definitely wish that it would rectify. 6. 7. 8. Okay, so there's our kick. See, it's going through Superrack, so let's jump over and insert the rest of our stuff. Alright, so now we're going to go to kick out and go ahead. Sign. 2 and 2. We're going to hit apply. We're going to go down this whole rack here. IO3, IO3, apply. So one of the reasons I like to do these practice runs, everything through Superrack, is because of the latency groups. When I'm doing these, I really don't want to stop and take the time to start measuring everything in Smart, trying to make this an enjoyable process. Not that Smart isn't enjoyable, but when I'm just trying to get in a mix like this, if I have to start keeping track of all my latency stuff, I'm just doing too much for the moment. I'm not being paid, right? It's for getting paid. So by dumping everything into latency groups on Superrack, it just keeps all my latency aligned and keeps things relatively simple. So just keep trucking along here, hitting everything into the inserts that they need to hit. And this gives you all a great experience of what it takes just to get a mix started, right? Just to get all this gear working the way it should. Or the way I want it to. Has a bit of technical element to it. Understanding all these ins and outs. If you're not sure what an insert is, an insert allows me to steal the signal that's coming in on an input before it hits my fader that would send it to the master bus, and send it somewhere else for processing, and then bring it back into the console and allow it to continue down the signal path. That's how we send it to Superrack to be used for processing in plugins, and then sending it back to the console so that it can carry on with the rest of the audio and eventually to your ears. So that is what I'm doing now. I'm setting up the inserts. On old analog consoles, we would do this with old TRRS cables that you would patch into the inserts on the back of the console and route over to your outboard gear, like your compressors and your gates and what other pieces of gear you chose to use back then. So continuing forward, now we're on a stereo track, so this one's going to be 9 and 10. And we want to make sure we address both sides, 9 and 10. And then on our input side, back in, 9 and 10. Same thing for our stereo overheads. They're going to be 11 and 12. I'm going to apply that. And then our room, which I say I'm not going to use, but we're still going to throw it through the chain just in case I decide to anyway. That'll be 13 and 14. Go ahead and apply that. And into the drum pad. Probably don't need to process the drum pad, but for latency's sake, we're going to keep it in line. And this is where we need to keep track. So it's going to go to 15. And we're almost done with our insert setup. We're going to hit apply. So bass mic, 16. And I really wish there was a quicker way of inserting these inserts like in the patch bay area. That would be nice, but there's no way to do that. You strictly have to do it painstakingly through each of the channels as I am doing. So we're up to 17. And that's why it's good to build some files out that have some rough file structure so that you don't have to keep going through this process every single time. Alright, I'm just going to check that I've got everything going in order. So now we're up to the guitars. Getting there, getting there, getting there. 18. Alright, all this just to do a little Christmas mixing. 19. 20. Nope, messed that one up. 20. Alright, into the vocals. 21. It would also be nice if the ins and outs tracked. Like, you know, if you were changing the input up here, and it would automatically track to the return, but then give the option to maybe change the return if you wanted to. That would be nice. But again, for the price point, console does exactly what it needs to. Alright, 22. Almost finished up with our inserts. And last but not least, 23. Which for some reason is showing up as a stereo channel, but it's not stereo, so let's go fix that real quick. Which is showing up as 23 and 24. We're going to make that mono, and then go back to our processing and finish making that a mono input, mono insert, send, and return. Okay, at this point, all of our inserts are patched. We're seeing signal in and out of Superrack. So now we're going to take some time and we're going to label everything in Superrack to coincide with the console. Alright, we've got everything labeled correctly here. We need to change our ins and outs because they are not correct. Okay. So now I'm just searching for things.
Oh, down low.
Like where things are, right? Not hearing the drums where I should, so we're going to check our input patch. Make sure 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So now we're going to come over and just double check on Logic that our inputs and outputs are correct and we don't have anything soloed, which I don't see anything soloed. 20, so everything should be up to 4, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 13. Alright, so I can see that some things are not correct here, so let's change them. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I see the issue. Okay, so I have some things that are patched wrong here in Logic, so I'm going to change their outputs real quick and get everything sorted. 18, 19, 20. It should be 21. It should be 22. And this should be 23. Sometimes it gets complicated with the patching. Lots of ins and outs of everything that you have to keep track of. Alright, 23. Let's see what we got now. So this is supposed to be the vocal drum track. Definitely hearing a lot of drums. I just realized that y'all can't hear any of the music. Let me go ahead and patch that over to a group so you can hear it. Alright, so now that we can actually hear the song that's going on, we'll get started.
Oh man, more creative equal. Oh, down low. Down. Oh. Down on the. Oh. Down on the floor. Ooh. Get me low. You get me low now. You get me low. Then you get me high, yeah. This is Balkun Brothers at the Telefunken Studios, live from the lab, and this is a song called So High, So Low.
So what I'm
This is Balkun Brothers at the
So just setting a gate to try and get the drums out of the drum vocal. Doesn't always work because gates can be, inherently clicky if you're really trying to keep a whole lot of information out of them. The snare is just as loud as he's singing, right? So chances are won't be able to get rid of it, but gonna try.
Yes.
So as much as I was hoping to use that gate to cut that drum noise out of the mix, it's not working. Mainly because there's just too much information, and he's singing rather low. The snare hits and the rest of it's just way hotter than his vocal, so I'll never cut it out. I'll dial the gate in to get some of the other information out, but I'm not going to clean it up totally, so I'm not going to chase it trying.
Live from the lab, and this is a song called So High, So Low. Kick it, Nick.
So you may have noticed some Rice Krispies, some snap, crackle, and pops that occurred there. Had to up the buffer from 32 to 64. When you're running 20 racks on Superrack, it's going to yeet up some of your bandwidth, so you have to adjust accordingly. So I just had to restart Superrack because I forgot to scan my cache, and my licensing for UA is being a bitch. And we may proceed.
Christ. Can I get peace for me? Can I get peace for me? Can I get peace for me? Lady of the liberty, get me high, then you bring me down. Oh, down low. So no feel like I'm down on the floor. Oh! Yes. Get me low. You get me low now. You get me low. Then you get me high, yeah. This is Balkun Brothers at the Telefunken Studios, live from the...
Balkun
one.
Brothers at the Telefunken studio from the lab, and this is a song
We're gonna give it one more
called
run
So
through,
High, So
and
Low.
then I'm gonna take a short break, and then we'll come back and we'll start polishing everything up.
All the time. Get me high and bring me down low.
Oh, down low.
Like I'm down on the floor.
Oh,
Little freedom, baby, I see it in your eyes. You're standing on the banners of the people, can you hear their cries? Can I get peace for me? Can I get peace for free? Can I get peace for me? Lady of the liberty, get me high, then you bring me down low.
down low.
So low, feel like I'm down on the floor. Oh!
gonna take a short break, go off the air. We'll come back with a second video that will be polishing this mix up. If you're watching, thanks for watching. If you have comments, leave them in the comment section. When I get a moment, I'll make another video answering your questions.